Hey there, welcome to Dear Romance Writer, where three writers who always deliver happily ever afters offer questionable advice for all of your relationship, work, and life problems. I'm Zio
Bless you.
Axelrod. Bless you.
I'm Avery Flynn.
I'm Roan Parrish, and I'm sneezing. We have a great show for you today. We have on the podcast best-selling author Penny Reid, which is very exciting. Now, I don't know if you remember this, Penny, but you and I actually crossed paths. Do you remember? She's nodding.
I do.
I had like forgotten about this, and I remembered we had, I had a reader, I think, tell me about it. And then I reached out to Penny that they had ordered a copy of one of my books, Small Change, and that in the middle for like 50 pages, there was inserted pages that were clearly from a different book. And then
oh my God,
like you couldn't tell what the book was because it didn't have the title on the tops of the pages. And so I posted a picture that they had sent me being like, who knows what book this is from? And it turned out it was from one of your books. And so then we did a giveaway for these like monster, like Frankenstein copies of our book babies, like what can join.
that's nuts. I love that.
That's awesome.
That was awesome.
Imagine as a reader getting that.
I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, yeah, I love it when somebody recently got a Tijan book and they opened it up and it was Truth or Beard again. It's like, it's the same book that constantly interrupts other people's reading experiences.
It's like being Rickrolled. You're like the Rick Astley.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
So people were being Penny Reid rolled.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm delighted to have you here personally to be able to look you in the face and say how funny and cool I thought that thing was. But will you tell us a little bit about yourself other than the fact that people are getting Reid rolled by your book?
Oh, I like that. Reid rolled. That's
Reid
perfect.
rolled.
I'm gonna have to make a meme of myself, like doing something incredibly irritating, perhaps just talking, and then randomly send it to people, and then they're Reid rolled. Or I could sing the Rick Astley song, which that might be illegal in terms of like the Geneva Convention and torture. I mean, So about me, I'm Penny Reid, and I write romance novels, and I love doing so. Prior to writing romance novels, I worked in biomedical research, specifically pediatric rare diseases and type 1 diabetes research, preventative studies for that. And then I started writing, I guess, in 2012, not writing overall, but writing romance in 2012. And my first book was Neanderthal Seeks Human, and I loved it so much I decided to continue, and that brings us to now. So it's kind of like a Seinfeld yada yada yada. Now I am here. And
so you wrote all those books just to get on our podcast. It's amazing.
It was all about this moment, right?
Long game.
Right. So it was a long game, and now I can retire. So this is me announcing my retirement.
No, there are more Winstons. No.
Yes.
So I just released a book this week. Believe it or not, I just released a book. The name of the book is Homecoming King. It just released. Today is 2 days ago, I guess. And I have something else to show you. This is the book, but one of my readers made this. It's actually this book, but cross-stitched in box book form. And
it's amazing.
Oh, you guys, this is so worth going over to YouTube and getting a look at that, because that's really amazing. So cool. That is an amazing reader.
Yeah.
Yes, I have awesome. I mean, I should pile things up and do a show and tell. I had a reader once who made me a Winston Brothers blanket, which was a quilt with all of their silhouettes in the different squares. And I just like lost my mind. I started cussing.
I'm tearing up. I haven't even.
Yeah, I cried.
That's so
I guess
cool.
when I'm emotionally overwhelmed, I cuss and I cry. I learned that about myself. So
all right, we all have our triggers. I like
That's
that.
Awesome.
I like that. So before we started recording, I was talking a little bit because I'd heard a story about how Penny had gotten started writing romance, and it was a big fat urban legend. So I want to know that I would love to hear, in place of our little chitter chat about what happened this week, I would like to know the truth. How did you get started? Why did you do this? Why did you do this to yourself?
Why did I do it to myself? Well, when I used to work at the epidemiology center, I've always written. I guess I should start that way. But my jam was the books that I had been introduced to by my older brothers. And they read a lot of fantasy and science fiction. And then obviously, whatever they assign you in high school and college. And so I read classics and whatnot. But I'd never read romance. And I had a work colleague. She was a biochemist where I worked. She loved romance novels. And she said at the time, so this was back in like 2011, 2012, she was having a lot of difficulty finding romance novels about people who reminded her of herself. And so that would be individuals who were socially awkward, book smart, but not social smart. Yeah. So that was me. And so I thought to myself, oh, well, I could write that because that described me. So I wrote her, specifically a romance novel, because I was writing all the time and I just finished up the last science fiction, whatever novel I had written that will never be published and nobody will ever read. And she read it and she really liked it. And so we had made a bet that if she liked it, she had to take me out to dinner. So she took me out to dinner and I had the steak and the lobster and 2 bottles of wine because it took me 7 months to write the book. And I felt like, I earned this dinner.
Yeah.
And then I saved it and I put it away and that was that. And then she wanted her book club to read it. So she asked if I could put it up on Kindle for free. So I did. But I thought I'd leave it up for a couple of days so her book club could download it. And I did that on Pi Day. It was in March 2013. I put it up for free. And then a couple days later, I just wanted to check to make sure those 8 people had downloaded it, and it had been downloaded something like 8,000 times. And people were leaving reviews and they were reading it, and I was horrified. And I was like, how dare you read this book? Because it wasn't for them. So, like in a rage, I told my husband about it. He's like, no, wait a minute. So he was the one who talked me into leaving it up. And so I did. And that's how I got started. I guess it was an accident. So that's the real story.
That's better.
2013 was a year for happy accidents.
So I love that.
I'm also super delighted by that because I also wrote my first book for a friend and it got published kind of by an in that way. Yeah.
In the same year.
Really?
Okay.
In the same year.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. 2013 had some pixie dust over it or something.
So all of you wrote your books for friends.
Yeah,
I did not.
Mine was just for I had like 30 followers on my Tumblr blog. And so I wrote like a 200-word thing and they were like, keep writing. And I just kept going until it was 200,000 words. Yeah.
That is so great. I think that's fantastic. Because nobody's ever said that they also did it for the same reason. Yeah, so I feel like
that either. And mine was, I went to visit a friend from grad school who had moved into a new place and taken a new job and didn't know anyone. And she was one of my only friends who also read romance because I made her. And she was like, I just wish I could read a romance novel about someone in my situation. And I was like, I'll write you one. And then I did. I sent it to her chapter by chapter over email, just I'm a big nerd, you're a big nerd, here's a book I'm writing you.
Let's be nerds together. I love that.
You have you've made my year. I don't think you understand how much you've made my year because that's so wonderful. I'm beside myself. I won't start crying and cussing, but it's just nice to know that it's just that, I've told that story a number of times. And I think sometimes people think I'm being arrogant about it. But it's just what happened. And it wasn't at all purposeful. It was just something fun. And I really enjoyed the process. And I love the fact that it was going to end happily because you can't take that. I think that when I finished the book and then I started reading romance, it was such a relief to read books that ended happily because most of my experiences in life didn't have happy endings, meaning it was always, anyway, I won't get into that because this isn't therapy, but the thing is it was just lovely to be able to count on reading a story with a happy ending, a happy, hopeful ending. And it made such a difference in my life. And I felt like when I started reading romance, I found the answer, if that makes sense. Like,
oh, 100%.
Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
Awesome.
I love that.
Well, we're so glad you're here today.
Yeah.
Let's get into our letter and see if we can offer some advice. We actually pulled this from our favorite source, one of our favorite sources, Am I the Asshole on Reddit, which is just an endless font of stuff. This one actually, this one I'm curious to see what you guys say about this. Am I the asshole for telling my kids I'm not okay with calling their stepmom, quote unquote, mom? 2 years ago, my husband left me for my best friend after 20 years of marriage, and they got married. As much as I loved my husband, his affair wasn't a surprise. My mother-in-law told me on our wedding day that men like him don't stay loyal to women like me. She was right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. What hurt the most was the portrayal. What hurt the most was the portrayal from my best friend.
It was the mother-in-law that said it, not her. So it was his mom.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay.
This is a 9-layer cake. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. What hurt the most was the betrayal from my best friend. I loved this woman and considered her a sister. Since then, I've gone no contact. NC had to think about that. No contact from both of them. Any communication regarding the kids goes through a third party. If they're at an event, I don't go there. My kids know this and have respected this boundary. They know not to mention them to me, and we celebrate birthdays separately. The kids are now 16 female, 17 male, 17 female, 18 female, and 21 male. Recently, when we were all at our house, the 16-year-old female asked me if I was okay with her calling her stepmom mom. She said since she will have a half sibling soon, this will make the half sibling not confused and part of the family. I told her, no, I am not okay with that woman being called mom, but she could call her if she wanted to. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean she doesn't have to do it. I won't be mad at her if she calls her mom. The other kids started getting mad at her, but I shut them down. My mother-in-law called me screaming, saying I'm alienating the stepmom and I should have told my daughter that I'm okay with it. I have an honesty policy with my kids. I am always open and honest with them. Just because I do not personally like something they do doesn't mean I don't let them do it. For example, one of my 17-year-old sons has a lot of piercings and I personally do not like, but that does not mean I forbid him from having them. Yeah. Layers. So do you think she's
there are so many people I want to punch?
Yeah.
People in this letter.
Penny's face. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like, this is why I
processing.
read romance novels. I don't read Reddit. It just stresses me out. You know what I mean? Like this is the real stuff. This is nonfiction. And
this is not happily ever after. And what's interesting is when I read this, or as you were reading it, because I hadn't read it before, I kept expecting for things to go a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think that this person is the asshole at all. I think that's exactly the right way to handle it. And I feel like being like emotionally mature enough to know the distinction between I am not okay with it, I don't like it, and you also can still do it. But if you're asking how I will feel about it, my feelings will be negative.
It's so healthy.
Intercede.
Yeah.
I feel like that is.
Oh my God, that's such a great parenting lesson.
It's so healthy. Like I'm surprised.
That is a powerful thing to teach your kid, right? All right. Well, let me ask this first. Is there anybody here who has step parents? Like I had step parents.
I've had 2.
Okay. Hold on, I gotta count. I've had 3. Sorry, I'm like, hold on, I gotta count. I love you, Mom. So who should never ever listen to this podcast. So if you are listening, Mom, go away. But yeah, so I think that there is, only speaking and having never been a step parent, but so only seeing it from the kid level of it, there's so many weird emotions and layers to having to blending families, right? And Zio, please speak up if you've had completely different experiences. So there's a ton of that with that on top of it. So then, and not even counting like the 8 layers of crazy that came with this, just the one question of am I wrong? Am I the asshole? there's no way this woman is the asshole. She's handled it very responsibly. I think, in being able to show the difference between, you asked how I would feel, so I'm answering that, but at the same point in time, I'm giving you permission to, you know, basically take your own path on this thing.
Mhm.
I think that would be really, really hard. And then add to it the layers of the fact this was somebody she was married to for, I'm assuming, 20 some years. Considering the age, the oldest
The
kid
ages
is
of the
21.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah. That there's a baby on the way, that it's her best friend, and that it was so emotionally awful that she went completely no contact, which I'm sure actually is probably made easier because of the age of the kids. Like, I don't see how you could do that if you had really young kids. But
Yeah.
add in all of those layers, I can't even imagine how hard it would be to have that attitude for your kids, to be able to say, yeah, that would really bother me, but you go ahead and do it, as opposed to just, you know, a meltdown, right?
Mhm.
Well, so on
I'm
the
kind
other
of
end of
impressed
the
by that,
spectrum,
period.
on the other end
Go
of the
ahead.
spectrum, did y'all see that picture of that woman in Washington State who caught her husband cheating, her mugshot, and she has the biggest smile on her face, like it looks like a modeling photo. She caught
No.
her husband on the other end of the spectrum, right? This is all I can think
Yeah.
about right now. So this woman caught her husband cheating, had enough emotional intelligence to be like, I can't even be around you without creating a scene, and that would be painful for my children. So I'm just going to remove myself. So you have this woman here who's asking if she's an asshole. This woman catches her husband cheating, uses her photo album to, oh God, how do I say this? She used her photo album to destroy his ball sack and then was arrested. And her mugshot's like, you know, like, she's like, that's right, Adrian.
Like a
And
physical
so-
photo album, not like a phone photo.
One of those,
No,
like,
she took her physical photo album
Oh
my
and
God.
destroyed his
You know,
ball sack.
if I was writing that, it would have been their wedding album.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. It was her wedding album.
What's
oh
the name of
gosh.
it? I
It
love
Wow.
was her wedding album. That's right.
Wow.
All right.
You got to look
I
this
get
up.
that feeling.
But you have this woman
Oh
over
my
here with
goodness.
all this like thoughtful intelligence, and you know,
Yeah.
she's asking if she's asshole, and then you have this woman on the other side who's like, I'm not the asshole, he's the asshole. That's why I destroyed his ball sack. And
Yeah.
yeah, and just human beings are so fascinating how they run this
Yeah.
gamut of just
Complete
like
gamut.
yeah, and you know, she's never going to go on Reddit and ask if she's an asshole. Am I the asshole for destroying my husband's ball sack with a wedding album?
No,
I mean,
no.
never going to happen.
The thing
Oh
that
my
jumped
gosh.
out at me in this, other than everything, was was the mother-in-law.
Other than the bag of cats.
Yeah.
The
The
mother-in-law,
mother-in-law,
yes.
one, telling her he's going to cheat, and two, chastising her for not like embracing the new relationship. And it's like, that woman there has been conditioned to accept boys will be boys.
Well,
That's a woman who's like, you know,
there's a subtle nuance to what she said to her on her wedding day, which was men like him cheat
Mhm.
on women like you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't cheat on women, it was cheat on women like you.
Oh.
So she's
Yeah, that,
basically
yeah.
saying you're not good enough. That's what she was saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I'm really
yeah.
curious what the men like him and the woman like her were in this mother-in-law's mind. Like if it's about looks or money or status or personality. Like I'm just
Something.
so curious. It's
Yeah.
not relevant, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Well, and how much of it was projection?
Ugh.
You know, because
Yeah.
if that is what she thinks that,
She's got
and how what she is accepted,
She's a steamer trunk of
for better
baggage
or
over
worse,
there.
everybody's marriage is different. So, you know, and some people it's not a big deal. They will cheat and they will come back, and that's an okay place for them. And I don't live their marriage, so it's their decision. But if that's sort of how you're raising your child, and then I see a lot of enabling here from the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
You know, rationalizing and enabling, and especially because it's not even I mean, if she's no contact with the dad, with the ex-husband, right? So maybe he can't call her, but I'm assuming if he really cared, he could find a way. So to have the mother-in-law calling and saying that she's alienating the stepmom,
Yeah.
telling
So
her to lie.
I have a question for all of you. Were you, as you were listening to the letter, constructing and plotting out a romance novel for this woman to give her a happy ending.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
This is what I'm your fairy
Totally.
godmother. And this is what happens next. Yeah.
You know what? I also want to make her either I want to make her best friends with the wedding book lady.
Yes.
So, yeah. So together maybe they meet in the middle, not domestic violence assault, which we do not endorse. And not am I the asshole for sticking up for myself and being super emotionally intelligent?
And an amazing parent.
Middle place. Yeah. Those are the people that you like buy like the house, the plot of land with, and everybody gets their own little house and you share the backyard and you like old lady retire together. That's like my dream. So yeah, that's what I see.
Question. Sorry, go ahead. No, I was this was like the other topic in this. Let me go ahead. So go ahead, Roan. You go first.
Nope.
You sure? Okay. So Avery, as a stepchild, did you ever call your step parent just mom or dad?
Never. However, number one, I was a giant brat of a child. So, there's that. But however, I did call my best friend's mom in high school mom. And that used to annoy the hell out of my mom. And I never really got it, I understand better now being a mom and having kids and all of that good stuff. But no, I did not. Did you?
No. But I have called my mother-in-law mom just because I don't like calling her by her first name. I hyphenate my stepmother, so it's mom and her first name. Because I used to call her Miss and her first name. And then she signed a card once, mom and her first name. And so I started calling her that, but I still slip up sometimes and call her Miss. My sister and I both do. But my mom would have lost her mind, even though I didn't live with my mom, but she would have lost her mind if I called anyone else mom.
It's interesting because it does bring in that whole idea of, the meaning and the emotional meaning behind names, relative names, like there's a tradition of people being cousins when they're not cousins. There's aunts and uncles that are not technically aunts and uncles, and there's found family, and there's blood relatives that you would not pull over for if they were on fire. So it's so complicated when it comes to that stuff. But for some reason, and I see it with mom almost more with dad, and I don't know if that's my bias I bring to the table, being a chick, but there doesn't seem to be as big of an issue with multiple dads as like, I don't think I've ever seen it where a dad being upset because somebody else.
You see it a lot in fiction.
Calling somebody else dad. Do you?
Yeah, I've seen a lot on TV shows where or a film, they're like, oh my God, he called, my kid called her boyfriend or her new husband or whatever dad. It's like a big plot point in some stuff.
All right. See, I'm just watching the wrong kid. So there you go. I'm just married to an unemotional Irishman. So, and I'm personally prickly. So
but you're totally right about the cousins and uncles thing. Because we in the African American community, you often hear the term play cousin or like play uncle or whatever. Yeah. And that's just, it's like your parents' best friends' kids. They're not blood related to you, but you grew up with them and you know them almost better than your blood relation cousins. And so they're your cousins.
Family's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I actually think, I'm curious what y'all think about the teenage daughter's reason for asking the mom, can I call the stepmom mom? Because she's old enough that I understand if you're like 3 and you get a step parent or 5 or whatever it is. But I feel like at 17, if you get a new step parent, there's no need, like personal need to call them mom necessarily if your mom's in the picture, which is why I was kind of surprised that it was kids that turned out to be that age. But then when the idea that like there's a new baby coming and this person wanted to make the new baby feel comfortable, I'm torn on it, because in one way I think it's really sweet as an impulse, and in the other I was like, honey, nothing is going to make this baby think your family situation is normal, certainly not calling your mom's ex best friend and now your stepmom mom. So yeah, I was curious what y'all thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she is being sweet. And she asked, so she's not like, but I am curious if she's bonded with the stepmom in a way that she didn't feel bonded, with the baby coming and stuff. She's not the youngest, is she?
She is the
Oh, she is the youngest. Yeah. So I think
And
it might
and
be big sister syndrome. Like, okay, I want to be the big, the sibling that this little one looks up to, kind of thing.
Well, and she also
there's
that person, right? Like if this was her mom's best friend.
Oh yeah.
Have known this woman since she was a kid. And always, because you know how sometimes your parents' best friends can be like the aunt and uncle, like the evil aunt and uncle, like you can tell them things that you wouldn't tell your parents, or they're the ones who will like, okay, just a sip, but don't tell your mom. And so I wonder if for these teenagers, like at the exact moment that they are maybe wanting to do things that their own mom wouldn't approve of, they see this new stepmom as like, we're basically grown. It's kind of more like a friend than a parent. And if they really did have some loyalty to this person, I don't know how. Like, I think if I found out that someone had been basically like made a cheat on my parent, I would not be super warm to them. But I'm curious. So,
I'm wondering if this 16-year-old was prompted by somebody, meaning like, I doubt that she thought about it on her own. So especially with the mother-in-law coming in and, wanting to rip apart the ex-daughter-in-law, it seems to me like the ex-daughter-in-law, am I the asshole lady? She separated herself knowing that it was best. And it's got to be frustrating to whomever is the manipulator in this entire, because there's somebody, right? Whoever's the manipulator, that she has removed herself so completely so they can't emotionally manipulate her anymore. And doing so through her children, to me would seem like the likely thing to do. Usually when people are manipulating like this, they don't think to themselves, how can I manipulate? But they have this vacuous hole within themselves that they need to fill. And they can only do so by making other people miserable. And so therefore, that's what they're looking to fill. So I feel like the 16-year-old was probably manipulated into it and prompted,
especially
is my guess.
The other three kids are against it. Since the other three kids are against it, that's the one that the manipulator, probably the mother-in-law, I'm going to go with her. I'm going to think it's her saying, why don't you say something to your mom? You should ask your mom, or your mom is being difficult, or something.
Or don't you think it would be better if you called, so-and-so mom, because that would make it easier on the baby. And don't you want to make it easier on the baby kind of thing? That seems like that's not too far-fetched.
Yeah.
Such a weird random reason too. And I'm sorry if you guys hear the entire pack of my dogs barking right now. My youngest child just got home from school. So he will take them outside soon. But yeah, I do wonder about the prompting and whether that because I am, as somebody who's had a 16-year-old daughter, and again, it could just be mine, but there wouldn't have been a question. It just would have been done, right? So to me, the fact that she asked the question says she herself is unsure.
Right.
So because it at least doesn't seem like it is approached like the 16-year-old approach, saying, hey, I'm doing this now and I wanted to tell you my reasons why, and blah blah blah. It's, are you okay with this? So
especially knowing how everything came about, knowing that this was her mom's best friend and everything. I mean, yeah,
that's a lot.
That's okay.
Can I throw a wrench in things? Because
please
I
do.
Just finished reading this book that was so fucked up. It was called Darling Rose Gold. Highly recommend. And it is a book about this. It's told from the point of view of the mom and the daughter in alternating chapters on alternating timelines. And it starts when the mom is just getting out of prison after being in prison for 5 years for child abuse. And she had Munchausen's by proxy. And so she was basically like making her daughter ill since childhood to get attention. And finally the daughter realized what was going on and reported her, and she was put in jail. And now she's getting out of prison, and the daughter comes to pick her up and takes her back to this house so they can stay there together. And you're like, oh my God, this poor girl is like welcoming.
Is this a horror book? Does she murder her?
It's not horror. It's like suspense. Psychological.
Like, is this a murder book?
No, it's not murdery. But then
Damn.
and you go back.
I would have enjoyed it being a murder book.
What?
I said I would have enjoyed it being a murder book. That would have been good for me.
So then you
All
go
right,
back
so keep
in
going.
time to the daughter when the mom, like during the time she was in prison, and you realize very, very slowly, and it's really well constructed, and I will not spoil or anything. You realize slowly that the daughter is actually not nearly as much as a victim as you have thought. Ooh. And then the stories are interwoven between the two of them. And the end is very satisfying, I think. But what if, and I know I'm only asking this because I just read this book, like what if the 16-year-old daughter actually hates her mother and the entire time has known that the best friend and the father are having
I was thinking that too, actually.
And is right? And has like sort of helped
like
it along.
She's the mother that I wanted, not you. Like that
exactly.
kind of thing.
Oh. And then she's like, now she's like so innocently asking to try to seem nice, but actually this is like an elaborate torture module to make her mother feel as terrible as possible. Just throwing it out there.
Nobody can deliver a shiv like a teenage girl. We all know this. Having life experience with teenage girls, nobody delivers a shiv like a teenage girl. So maybe. Oh my goodness. All right, what's the name of that book again?
It's called Darling Rose Gold.
Darling Rose Gold. Okay.
Yeah, and the author is Wrobel, Wrobel. So good.
Penny's having regrets right now.
Oh, this is why I only read romance. It's like I don't want to know these things. They take up space in my brain rent free, and then like tomorrow I'm going to be thinking about it, and then like the day after that, it's like 7 months from now. Roan's going to get like a message from me via Twitter. I'll be like, "You heinous bitch!" I'm thinking about that, and so
I love it.
I'm glad it can make you laugh. I'm glad you're laughing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to fix it just for Penny. Okay, so basically the end of the book is that that it was a terrible nightmare that the daughter was having in a fevered state, and she wakes up and her mother is just like petting her hair back, and they
Wizard of Oz
milkshakes. And then there's like a puppy in the park and they find it and it doesn't have a home, so they adopt it.
Oh, and everybody's happy.
That is not what happened.
She's not buying it.
You lie like a dog. That's not true.
That would be the ending if Rowan had written it. She'd be like, there'd be puppies and cats, and
yeah, pretty much.
That's not what happened.
Okay, so from one horror story to another, let's talk. We're going to move on to our chat topic, and I am at the end of when we're recording this. This was the last week of my mentorship program that I belong with. The Inclusive Romance Project does a really cool mentor program. If you guys are ever interested, Karma Kelly runs it, and it'll probably start up for signups again soon. But Kiana and I have had a great, I don't even know how much. I think it's been 3 months. And so last night was our last conversation. And so it was really sort of freewheeling about different stuff. And she asked about like setting goals and what I consider setting goals. And then also we really talked about success and the definition of success and how it's individual. And at least to me, it moves and changes constantly. So, we got a lot of brain power here in the room today. So I wanted to know with you guys, what is your definition of success? What does it mean for you, both work and life? And is it constant or does it change? Yeah, so just a little light topic to go with the, the best friend cheater and crazy mother-in-law. So yeah. All right, Penny, go first.
Okay. I think for me, there's always been an immovable definition of success for myself. But then there's a central theme that has never changed. And then other things always do change. Like the quantitative part of it changes, meaning the goalposts always change, but the qualitative part of it is immovable. And for me, the definition of success is feeling like I'm doing I'm doing a tangible good in the world. I don't know how to put it other
That's
than
a really
that.
great way.
So
That's a
success
great
for
way
me
to phrase it.
is feeling like I'm making a difference in some way, and that whatever success I have, qualitative or quantitative, or mostly quantitative, I mean, so numerical or, monetary, that I'm multiplying it. I'm not just sitting on it and keeping it for myself or those that I value or love, but that I'm putting it back out there and reinvesting into others so that they also can benefit. So that would be the central immovable definition of success for me. But then, like, oh, I want to sell so many copies of books. That's always a goalpost that has shifted since I started writing. And I remember the first time I hit 100 paid sales, I like lost my mind. I was like, that's amazing. 100 people want to read this book, like on purpose. And with every time it increased, it always just felt so amazing to me. And over the pandemic, I think, I feel like I'm not the only one who lost a bit of themselves over that time period and turned to cocktails. And so, but I'm coming out of that now. But what I also lost was the wonder of success, of not monetary, of quantitative success. And I felt very numb to anything that I accomplished. And so I guess for me, moving forward, what I would consider success is getting that back, is the wonder and the gratitude rather than feeling numb to it. So I think that absolutely that my definition of success has changed over time in that way. And now it's really just about writing books that I love and feeling that wonder of other people reading them and loving them too. That would be my definition of success right now. But constant to all of that has always been wanting to make a tangible difference in the world and multiply what I have received and giving back. Okay, that's it. I'm out.
Okay, I like that.
Read out.
She's done. We've been Reid-rolled again.
Yes, you have.
Okay. No, I love that because I don't remember where I read it one time, but it was talking about the mindset change of getting up and going into work and not saying I have to do this, but I get to do this, and just the different mindset that it forces you to have. Because yes, what you said about losing some of the wonder of that, I think that's, geez, right there with you. With a lot of the stuff that has happened in the past year and a half. Like, I don't even know how long it's been because it feels like forever. So yeah, I God, I feel that a lot. All right, Theo and Roan, how about you guys?
I think for me, if we're going to go to like the two-pronged approach of success, one is quieting the voices that I've carried with me my entire life that told me I wasn't good enough, didn't have enough talent, was irrelevant, was this or that. Like every time I achieve some personal goal, finishing a book, publishing a book, getting a good review, making a list, whatever it is, it's to shut up those voices, to shut up that voice or whatever. And then the other side of it, not to piggyback too much on what Penny said, was even as a songwriter, my whole goal is to touch another heart, or give someone something that they can grasp onto as something that relates to them or moves them or validates something in them or whatever. And being able to do that with books, because it's a long form of that, that's my other goal. That's the second prong of my success. So one is shutting up the voices, and two is reaching people, and the rest of it is icing. I think the rest of that is icing.
Yeah. I love that. This is like a question that I never consciously think of until it gets asked in a context like this. But I think I have always really wanted my days to be my own. Like freedom, I think, has always been the thing that I have wanted the most, more than like achievement, or like, I think that, you know, when people rank what are the things that you want, for me, freedom, which means like getting to do what I want when I want, has always been really high on my list. And like, I do understand how bratty that sounds.
No.
But, like,
No, not at all.
okay, thank you.
I'm there with you.
But I really like, I feel that in such a deep way. And so to me, I guess success is really about like creating a life where I can do what I want when I want it. And writing books is one piece of that. So like, that is what I want to do. And when I write books, I get to do exactly what I want. Like, a book is the physical manifestation of getting to do whatever I want. Like, I get to remake the world every time I write
the world according to Roan.
Yeah, the world according to Roan, exactly. And actually,
I think there's a reason why so many of us are control freaks.
Totally.
You know, it's a beautiful way to control the world.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm actually so much less of a control freak than I used to be. And I wonder if part of that is like proving to myself over and over again, each book, that I can exert control in one area has made it feel less necessary for me in others. But yeah, I feel like success, I think of success as being much more about how I get to spend my time than like applying it to the things with which I spend my time. So I think if writing books wasn't what I wanted to spend my time on, no amount of success, like I could make the New York Times bestseller list and not care if what I actually wanted to be doing was like being a painter or something. And I feel like my desire to write ebbs and flows. Like, I have a ton of hobbies. I'm there's a nice word for it now, a multi-passionate individual. I used to just be like, I can never fucking mind because I just change. I'm like moody. I change what I want all the time. But it's really like, I love doing so many different things. And so there are some days where I wake up and I'm like, writing? No, ma'am, that is not what I want to do today. And because it's my job, some days I do it anyway. And other days I'm like, I'm going to the thrift store and I'm going to go sit under a tree or whatever the thing is. But I feel like that is my number one measure of success, is like, am I living a life where I get to do what I want when I want it a reasonable amount of the time? And like, I too feel like in terms of success with my books, I want them to be meaningful to people, because as a kid who like was a reading kid, voraciously reading kid, writers were my heroes. Like, I loved the books and characters so much. And if I could give someone, like even one person, what those books and characters gave me as a kid, that is amazing. And so whenever anyone writes me or tells me like, I really identified with this character, or I feel like so-and-so is my best friend, I'm just like,
yeah, same.
No. Well, I have like, I go in two prongs, but I go in two different prongs than y'all do. I go in like the practical prong, and then I go in the more of the feeling prong. Believe it or not, I do have a feeling prong. I know it's scary to think about, and shocking, but for me, books have always been like the good time. You know, it's the stress reliever, it's the escape, it's the happy place, really. So one prong of me is wanting to be able to deliver that for somebody else, because that is fucking magic, is what that is. And it's amazing. And it's hard and it drives you nuts and it makes you cry. But we do it because we love it. So I think that part of it is one part of what gets for success for me, is to be able to, for me, success is that feeling when you like walk away from your keyboard like you've been in a fugue state and you realize that you've written a billion words and it like time went by in like 5 minutes and you look out and it's been a whole day. That is the best feeling in the entire world as a writer to me. I love that. So to me, that's a super successful day. But on the practical side of things, and you know, when Kiana and I were talking about that, I was like, look, you know, I grew up, we didn't have hardly any money. So being able to have to earn enough money to pay my bills is such a huge part for me. And it's not a success thing because I went to get lots of stuff. I like stuff, but it's not about that part of it so much as it is, you know, like people who grow up food insecure and then they stop by the grocery store every day because that makes them feel secure. Me knowing that I can pay my mortgage, makes me secure. So it makes it so that I can do the really awesome stuff that I love. So for me, it's like a practical side of things and I don't know what to call the other side of things. What would you guys call that? Like the touchy feely feelings, that side of things.
Yeah.
So that to me is success. And yeah, I agree with Penny completely. The quantitative stuff, the number stuff, that changes. Like, how many books do I have to sell for me to consider it a successful launch? How much does the royalty check have to be for me to feel like I'm doing my job well? And I do think also there is, I think there is also a point where I feel successful if I'm getting better at my job.
Oh yeah.
If I feel the books are improving as I go along.
Yeah.
And sometimes that makes writing harder the longer you do it, because you learn more. Like, you start off not realizing all the stuff you're messing up, but you're having so much fun. It's amazing, right? And then as you keep going on, you realize, oh God, I messed that up again. So, you know, getting better with each book is, I think, is also within that level of success for me.
Yeah.
Definition.
No, I think in our industry, especially like this time of year, so I've seen it a lot this week. All of the best of lists are coming out. Yeah. And I've seen a number of posts are like, don't, you know, just because you're not on the best of list, don't put yourself down. Don't compare yourself to others and all that stuff. But I mean, everyone does. Almost everyone does. And it's tough because you're looking at things happen for and to other people. And it's easy for people who come from the place that I do sometimes. It was like people just saying, oh, you're not good enough, or, oh, whatever, to internalize all of that and then pile this, you not making a list or you not getting a sale or whatever it is, into that, and just getting down on yourself. I think quantifying success as a list or contract or whatever is a slippery slope to go down. So I try to like discourage authors that I meet from going down that path, because you'll never write. You'll get to the point where you're just like, well, why bother? You know what I mean? And
and a lot of times it's just like it's just not feasible. What I mean is, you know, how the New York Times, for example, taking the New York Times list as an example, how they curate the list is, for some people it's just not possible to hit the list. So a good example of this would be Jennifer Armentrout.
I was just going to say Jen
Armentrout.
Armentrout
On every list, every list, anywhere on the New York Times. And so that should be a good message to people, that if don't make your goals making a list, whether it's a best of or it's a bestseller or whatever it is, because sometimes it's just literally impossible for you within the confines of how you're operating or who your publisher isn't or whatever it is. It's just going to be impossible. So basing it on obtainable goals, whether they be, again, quantitative or qualitative, making sure you know that your goals are actually obtainable. That's important too. Not because you should aim down, but because, like, I don't care how much you want it, unicorns don't exist. It's just not going to happen for you. So if that's your goal, I mean, unless you're a geneticist and you're crossbreeding between a narwhal and a horse, I mean, just set your expectations appropriately.
Right.
So
I have a new definition of success, and it involves a narwhal and a horse.
Well, and
I'm a girl with a dream.
Have you ever seen that comic? There's like a one square comic where it was like how unicorns were made. There's a horse grazing in the distance and a narwhal popping its head up from the water. It's like, I'm gonna fuck that. Like that.
I have seen that. And I was like, what?
That cracks me up. I think that's hilarious. That's my favorite.
Anyway. Well, and I think that's such an important point to make, what both of you are saying, because what so many, or what all three of you are saying, is that what so many authors sometimes don't understand is, like, the reason that, or I mean, sometimes authors just just share those achievements because they're happy and proud, and that's awesome. But also, like, I know for me, whenever something like happens that is good for one of my books, I am sharing that only to try to sell books. Like, I'm sure this isn't true for everyone, but like, yeah, I'm happy and yeah, I'm proud, but like, I can be those things on my own. I have no need to share that. And in fact, for me, when I'm really proud of something, I like tell no one, because I love having it like a little fire burning in my heart. And like, but when it happens, I want to share it because I want my books to seem successful. And so I want people to look at like, oh, so-and-so gave Roan a good review. Like I share that because I want them to think, well, if this person gave her a good review, maybe I would also give her a good review, and I will read the book.
Yeah, it's marketing. It's part of the marketing.
Very
part of it, I think that's
explanation for those things that is not about bragging, that is not about trying to make anyone else feel bad, and that isn't even about sharing a personal achievement, but that is really purely about marketing. I hope that new authors also can hear that and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, and I don't know how specific this is to the romance genre, but romance authors have to be their own hype people.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You absolutely do. I mean, that is part of the business, whether you're traditional or you're self-published or you're hybrid. Being your own hype person, even sometimes if it's just you on your kitchen floor, really getting yourself going, or if it's online or whatever it may be, sometimes you have to be that person, and that's just part of the business side of it.
Yeah,
to me.
Well, I'm all about celebrating each milestone, whether it's finishing a manuscript, turning it over to your editor, hitting the publish, whatever it is. I think celebrating those small successes, and I hate calling it small successes because it's not small. Everyone says they can write a book, but not everybody does. Everyone says they're going to publish, not everybody does. So you celebrate those things however you want to. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, there was an author who, I don't know how long she's been writing, but it's been a while, and she was sort of lingering like below mid-list, and then she made mid-list, and then she started moving up, and she's moving books, not a household name, but just moving books to the point where she was making enough that her and her husband built their dream home. And so she took her readers on the journey of like, here's the plot of land we bought, and here's the foundation. And people were like chastising her for doing that, like she was rubbing it in people's faces. And I was like, do you understand how hard she had to work to make this dream that they had come true? Like, why would you? Anyway, so yeah, celebrate whatever you want to celebrate. But I think, making, like Penny said, making your goals obtainable and realistic. And there's nothing wrong with having a pipe dream of being on the cover of whatever magazine. That's fine.
Right.
But yeah, making a goal that you can achieve. What I do is I set different goals for each year. So each year this year I'm going to do this. And then when I meet that goal, so next year I'm going to do that, and then I meet that goal. But it's stuff that I know that I have, if I work, I can do it.
And if you don't meet the goals, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that's sometimes a really hard lesson.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah.
But when you set a goal and you don't meet that goal, I think that I try, and because I fail all of the time, so I try and look at that as an opportunity to be able to see, what can I do differently? What can I learn from this? Where did I go instead of this place? Was it actually better? Is it, so trying to be a little analytical about it.
Like I didn't do that, but I did this, and that's really cool. So next year I'll go for that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, gosh, we ranged really far and wide here. This was a little delight. I'm gonna just decide that we're done now because I feel like we couldn't possibly go higher. Penny Reid, thank you so much for being here with us. It was a genuine pleasure. And can you tell our listeners where they can find you? Remind us of the book that the new release that you had, all that good stuff.
Sure. I just want to real quickly make a plug for something. I have an imprint that I manage called Smarty Pants Romance, and our focus is on own voices authors or diverse stories responsibly told. And it's an incubator, and all the money that we earn through it, we actually reinvest back into the authors and help them form relationships and try and help get them where they want to go. So where I'm going to tell people to find me is actually where I'm going to tell people to find those books and support those authors. SmartyPantsRomance.com. And the books I'd like to push people to get, if you're going to start with one, I think everybody, it's like universally loved. It's an amazing book. It's Upsy Daisy by Chelsea Edwards. It's probably my favorite book I read in 2000. It helped me a lot get through the early part of the pandemic, but it's a beautiful book. She's an amazingly talented author. So I'm going to plug Chelsea Edwards instead of talking about my book here. So that's what I'm doing. So there you go.
We love that.
SmartyPantsRomance.com. Yeah.
fansromance.com. Everyone go check it out. Well, thank you again.
And thank you all for having me, and I'll try not to re-roll you at any point.
No, please do.
It's welcome. It's really welcome.
I'm gonna be looking through all of my books now.
Yeah.
And thank you, listeners who joined us for another episode of Dear Romance Writer. Remember, send us your questions. We love doing Am I the Assholes, but we would even prefer to answer your questions. You can find us on dearromancewriter.com. We have a form that you can fill out, totally anonymous, or you can hit us up on any of the social media platforms. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about, ask us your questions, and we cannot wait to give you some questionable advice and hope you find your own happily ever after. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for subscribing to Dear Romance Writer. Remember to keep sending in those letters at dearromancewriter.com. We can't wait to tell you what to do. Dear Romance Writer is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love, frolic.media/podcasts.